Hare Krishna. A very, very warm welcome to everyone to another session of Practical Spirituality. Um, Today we have with us a very special guest, His Grace Akincana Krishna Prabhu. Hari Bol. Akincana Krishna Prabhu is a very senior brahmachari. He's been serving in ISKCON Mumbai, and he's also been serving in Pune before that, in Pune. Uh, he decided to be a monk in ISKCON in the year 1999. And before that, he was working in the industry for 2 years in Blue Star Limited and PC Soft Private Limited, two companies, uh, after doing his graduation in electronics and telecom engineering. And he also did his post graduation in business management. But after that, he joined as a monk. And since then, he has been doing a lot of services, mainly around outreach. He has done, he was giving value education to students in schools, and he has also been taking Gita courses for college youths and young professionals, so the entire range from children all the way to young professionals. He has also given life coaching and corporate seminars on topics like stress and time management based on the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. And he has been taking regular weekly spiritual discourses for devotee communities in Panvel, Khargar, and also in Seawoods in South Mumbai. So, along with all of this, he has also organized many spiritual trips and talks for the British youths every year. So, Prabhuji has a lot of experience in giving wonderful sessions for all kinds of audience. So, he's with us today and he's talking on a very relevant topic, which is freedom, right? Which is relevant to all of us. We all want to be free. So, without any further ado, let's hear from Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for joining us, for giving your valuable time.
I offer my respectful obeisances to all the participants. I'd like to thank you for getting in touch with me for this session. It's indeed a privilege and a service for me to share what little I know with devotees. So, the topic today is bound to be free. It's the topic which I spoke on in a Prerana festival about 8 to 9 years ago. Is my voice audible to all of you?
Yes, Prabhu, very clearly.
So, years ago, I gave this seminar to the youths of Bombay. It was attended by around, say, maybe 700, 800, or maybe more than that in the temple hall. And naturally, now because I'm speaking on the same topic to you, and since I don't, I'm not so familiar with you, and some may find this topic a bit odd because it touches on certain sensitive topics, issues. But well, I think that's the risk a preacher takes when he's giving the message, because sometimes the message is received well, sometimes it's not received well. So anyway, I'm taking the liberties, and if the topic is too sensitive, so you may just kind of switch off. So, bound to be free. Now, before I would like to acknowledge certain people who inspired me to make this seminar. One is, of course, Srila Prabhupada for giving us these principles of Krishna consciousness, on the basis of which I've made this seminar. And one of his disciples, whose name is Stephen Rosen, who wrote a book called as The Regulator Principles of Freedom. And he tabulated a lot of statistics which inspired me, and I thought I should base a seminar on that book. And then I did my own research, and I became more interested and I added a lot of my own findings to enrich uh, this topic, which I would like to share with all of you. So, as a youth, when I joined, I was about, say, 25 years that time, uh, and as youths, we loved challenges. And the when I came to ISKCON and when I heard people speaking about the principles that they follow, the 4 regulator principles, namely no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. This kind of tickled my sense of adventure. I felt this was quite a challenge. I love challenges. But then of course, we cannot just blindly accept a challenge. The challenge should be worthwhile, it should be meaningful. So then I inquired about it. And when I was convinced, then I took it up. Okay, so, and what I liked about this, should I say, these principles, especially presented by Srila Prabhupada, it's so clear cut. It's there. He's so categorical about it that this is what you should do and this is what you should not do for spiritual progress. And that's what I like, the clarity of it. So there are certain do's and certain don'ts. So in Krishna consciousness, we are categorically told with great clarity that, as I will be mentioning in the seminar, and that really appealed to me because never before had someone presented so clearly principles. Okay. But now at the same time, as a young boy, I always liked freedom. Nobody likes to be told, rules and regulations. It's not very natural. We all like freedom. We love it. Yes, and you see the title of the seminar, Bound to be Free. It's an oxymoron. You know what an oxymoron is? Yes? Like in a statement when there are contradictory words. Like in this, you see there are 2 contradictory words, bound and free. How can you be bound and how can you be free at the same time? But there are many words like this. Okay, like one word is original copy. You must have heard this, original copy, or pretty ugly. Oh man, that was pretty ugly, we say. Yeah? So these are oxymorons. So truly, actually, if you see, rules don't always bind us. Okay, don't always bind us. And we all follow rules, knowingly and unknowingly. All right. Like, for example, we are all free citizens. We are free, is it not? But in order to be free citizens, we have to be following the Indian penal codes. And there are hundreds and hundreds of laws that we should not do this, we should not do that, we should not hurt others, we shouldn't insult others, we shouldn't kill anyone, we shouldn't hurt them. And there are so many laws, hundreds and hundreds of them. And the fact is that we are free citizens is because we are following all those laws. Is it not? If we end up breaking these laws, we will be in prison. We will lose our freedom. So therefore, we can say that we are bound to these laws. Now, many of us don't even know what the laws are. How many of us are actually law literate? Now, that is one question I have for the educationists in India, is that we Indians are not law literate. We don't know the laws. Tomorrow when we are walking on the street, some police guy comes and, like, you might have all seen that video which came in Tripura, that district magistrate who went into a marriage hall and started beating the people and closing down, even though they had permission to conduct the marriage beyond 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. It was a COVID thing. They were not supposed to go beyond 10 o'clock, but they got special permission from his own office, from the district magistrate's office. But then the district magistrate himself comes and he's, insulting them, abusing them, and slapping the priests. And it was a humiliating experience, and it was all caught on camera. And then people started debating on what he did was right or wrong, and was it lawful for him to thrash these people and insult the priest in that way? Could he have done things in a better way? And the thing is that nobody really knows the law. What are our rights? So one thing to keep in mind, yes, all of us should be a little law literate. Otherwise, we will be taken for a ride. I hope you agree with me. The law literacy, we all are not law literate, yes, or not adequately. So, even though we may not know the law, but the fact is that we are free citizens. It means that we are following the law, and therefore we are free. So therefore we are bound. In a sense, we are bound, but we are free. Yes. So therefore, all of us have to follow laws, and we are following every day of our life. Like when we are walking or we are driving, we have to drive on the left side of the road, and all those laws. Like we go to school. When we go to school, there are so many laws. When you go to college, there are so many laws. When you go to work, there are certain timings that we have to follow. We go at a certain time, come at a certain time. And within marriage, there are certain laws, isn't it? Even marriage is a bond. You take vows, सात जन्म हम साथ रहेंगे. So many laws we are following. But what happens is that when you learn to coexist with those laws, the laws become part of your life, and you no longer feel its presence. It's just part of you, and therefore you don't feel that you're following them. So therefore, bound to be free. Therefore, we all have to, or we are all following certain rules, and that's the reason we are all free. So also in Krishna consciousness, there are certain laws which have been mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, which he says will set us free. It is the regulative principles of freedom. We have to voluntarily be bound by these rules in order to to escape the cycle of material bondage. So Prabhupada said that these are the four principles: no meat eating and illicit sex, intoxication and gambling. These are detrimental for our spiritual lives. Now you may see that none of these are illegal. Yes, meat eating is not illegal. If you eat meat, you will not be behind bars. You will not be arrested for it. Illicit sex, people are having it all the time, everywhere. Intoxication and gambling. But these are the rules which need to be followed when a person wants to advance in spiritual life. Yes. So why is it so important? Why is it recommended? It's interesting. This topic really, really interested me, and this is the foundational principles, and I'm sure that many of you are far beyond all these principles. But because Vrindavan Krishna Prabhu requested that, and the topic and the whole theme behind this group is practical spirituality, I don't think there can be more practical than these topics. Okay. And as I said before, that when dwelled into these statistics, it really inspired me. So I just thought if I can share it with you, you also may find it interesting. It's truly interesting statistics. Now, generally, statistics are quite boring because they're just facts and figures. So I try to enhance it by putting some interesting images and graphs, and maybe you will like it. And I don't want the seminar to be long-winded. So I think, Vrindan Kishore, you can tell me until what time I should go on, because I will just stop at that time. Even though I may not be able to complete all these four, how much ever we complete, I think that we'll call it a day. So,
Sure, bro. I mean, yeah, we can go till like 8 o'clock.
so spirituality, when we come to metaphysical on paths, we are given a goal, and that goal is to become free from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Yes. And the scriptures explain that this body and this world is like a jail. We are bound. And we all have to admit it, that we don't want to die, we don't want to grow old, we don't want to get diseased, but still all of these are imposed upon us. So now that is our bondage. Yes. Now how can we become free? So the goal of human society, according to the Vedas, according to the Bhagavad Gita, the very reason why we take birth, the expectation that God has from all of us is that we try to find a path out of this bondage. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma mrityurma amritam gamaya, to go from death to immortality. Because we are spirit souls, and we don't belong here. This material body is an engagement, and the supreme destination is Shri Krishna and his abode Golok Vrindavan. Okay, so with that in mind, now unless we do not define the goal, nothing else will make sense. Okay, so therefore, with that goal in mind, we will have to discuss the importance of these rules. So that's why dharma has been given to the human society. It's not given for animals. Dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharma vihina pashubir samanam. Chanakya Pandit says that only humans can follow dharma. Yes. Like if a cow is lying in the middle of the street, blocking the traffic, the road traffic officers will not come there and arrest the cow, because it is not expected that the cow will follow the rules. But if a human being, if he blocks the traffic and causes ruckus, then naturally there will be consequences. So the human beings are expected to follow rules and regulations, and therefore dharma means rules and regulations. Sanatan dharma, eternal rules and regulations, and which is compared to a table or a house which stands on four pillars, and that is truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness. So all of us are familiar with this. And based on these four principles, we have the four regulator principles, the four things that we should not be doing. Now, we all know that this episode in the Srimad Bhagavat Puran, where Parikshit Maharaj sees a man dressed up as a king breaking the legs of a cow. The legs of the cow represents these four principles that we just displayed on the screen. Satya, Tapa, Daya and Shaucha. So he forbade him and he took out his sword and he said, how can you commit such atrocities on the cow? Cow is the representative of dharma. And then this man who was dressed as a king said that I am Kali. I am inauspiciousness personified. And it is my time now to overwhelm the people in the age of Kali Yuga. So Parikshit Maharaj had overpowered him. He was a very powerful king and he told Kali that you cannot live here. As long as I am the king, there is no place that you can. But because Kali surrendered to Parikshit Maharaj, he said, no, but you have to give me some place to live. I am also taking shelter of you. And so then Parikshit Maharaj was helpless and he offered him 4 places. He says, wherever there is this meat eating, illicit sex, gambling and intoxication. Which means that wherever these 4 principles of dharma are broken, that means truthfulness, austerity, mercy and cleanliness, wherever people do not follow these principles of dharma by eating meat and all these things that they do, then you can overwhelm them and create inauspiciousness in their lives. So this story has been mentioned. And so therefore, we see that these things in ISKCON are forbidden, or at least they are recommended that we should not. We don't force. None of these are enforced upon people. In fact, that's what I liked about ISKCON, is that when I came, nobody enforced it upon me. I voluntarily took it up. And as I said, when I dwelled into the consequences, of not following these principles, that really inspired me all the more. So let us take a look into that. Okay, so what is it about these things? Now, Prabhupada says, in this context, he says a very wonderful quote from his books. In this material world, the conditioned soul is always inclined towards sex, meat eating, and intoxication. Therefore, religious scriptures never actually encourage such activities. Although the scriptural injunctions provide for sex through sacred marriage, for meat eating through sacrificial offerings, and for intoxication through the acceptance of ritual cups of wine, such ceremonies are meant for the ultimate purpose of renunciation. Yes. So, the scriptures do not restrict it. Okay, we have to understand it. There are injunctions in the Vedas for meat eating, for sex, and for intoxication. And we know that even in the Vedic times, people would gamble. Yudhishthira and the Pandavas they also gambled. There was a gambling match. We know that, the Kauravas and Pandavas. So, who can say that it is forbidden? No, it is not forbidden. But there is a regulation and there's a warning behind it. And as far as meat eating is concerned, here it is said that those who are mad after meat eating are instructed to perform Vedic ceremonies by which they are permitted to consume 5 types of 5-clawed animals, namely the rhinoceros, turtle, rabbit, porcupine, and lizard. So that means if you really want to eat meat, then these are the animals which have been recommended. It's quite gross actually. Similarly, the consumption of specific liquors is allowed during highly restricted sacrifices performed on specific days of the year at great expense. All right. I remember when I was in Kanchipuram, I had gone with some of the Western devotees, youths there. We had a group, and we were sitting in the premises outside the temple. So one, the Vedic Brahmin, looking at us, he approached us, and he was very intrigued by looking at us. Many of us were Westerners. So he was saying, "Where are you from? Which country are you all from?" and all that. So after he asked us some questions, then he inquired, and he was satisfied. Then I asked him certain questions. I asked him, what in your opinion, I asked many questions, like who's God in your opinion? Because he was a Yajurvedi Brahman, and he was a PhD in the Vedas. Very learned person. He had memorized the whole Yajurveda, or at least he was in the process of memorizing it. Very learned young boy. So I thought it would be interesting to find out, you know. So I thought it would be interesting to find out, how much he knows, or rather what he thinks about the Vedas and the Bhagavatam. And so I asked many questions: who is God? Which is the best mantra? And whether in the Vedic times people ate meat? Did Brahmins eat meat? And all those things. One of the questions I asked him was, did Brahmins eat meat in the Vedic times? And he said, yes, they did eat meat. Because he's a Yajurvedi Brahman, he will not lie. He knows the inside out. He said, yes, in those days, in the previous yugas, they did eat meat. That was his conclusion. I asked him, did Lord Ram eat meat? The controversial question. Let's see what he has to say. Then he applied his intelligence. He says, well, Ram was a Kshatriya, and yes, Kshatriyas also would eat meat. So that was his conclusion. So again, as I said, now the Vedas, as Prabhupada has quoted, does not forbid meat eating. Okay, we have to understand that. However, it is not recommended, it is regulated. There has to be some regulation. Now, why? What are the problems? Now we will go to statistics. Okay, now let us go and see what the materialistic scientists and research has got to say about this topic of meat eating. Let us begin with meat eating. Now again, I do not promise that I will be able to complete all the 4 topics here. I will try. Vrindavan Kishore, you'll have to tell, Krishna Prabhu, you'll have to tell me till what time I'll have to go. If you are still hearing me, till what time am I supposed to talk?
We can go till around 8.
8 o'clock, okay. So the materialistic scientists have concluded, research has shown that meat eating causes heart disease, it increases the risk of cancer, it is a major cause for starvation and major cause of pollution. Now let us go deeper into this. So it is explained that the Finns, people from Finland are called as Finns. So they consumed a lot of meat, and therefore they had the highest death rate from heart disease. Yes. Americans were the next, except for the Seventh-day Adventists, most of whom eat no meat or poultry. They suffer from only half as much heart disease as others. In Japan, where very little animal fat is eaten, there are fewer deaths from heart disease than in any other industrialized nation. Persons eating animal protein had higher levels of cholesterol in their blood than those fed a diet containing primarily vegetable protein. This is from research from the scientists at the University of Milan. A vegetarian diet, it is said, can prevent 90 to 97% of heart disease. This is from the Journal of the American Medical Association, reported in 1961. Now, please note, there is a disclaimer here. I prepared the seminar 9 years ago, so some of the research is old, but the principle still remains, okay? So please bear in mind. People who regularly consumed large amount of vegetables, especially in the cabbage family, had lower than expected rates of colon and rectum cancer. You know, there is a philosophy behind it, there's a science behind it, that when you consume a lot of meat, there's excess protein in the body. Because the body doesn't need too much protein, and the body cannot store protein. The body can store fat, but not protein. So as a result, the body will have to excrete, which means that all the organs are under pressure, the kidneys, the liver, the colon, the rectum, and all those things. So when the amount of protein starts building up, it puts a lot of pressure on the organs, causing complications. And another cause of cancer is the chemicals that they add as preservatives in meat. The meat industry masks meat discoloration by adding nitrites, phosphates, and other preservatives. They put it to make it look fresh. And one Dr. William Lijinsky, a cancer researcher at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, says that these preservatives are so harmful that I wouldn't even feed nitrate-laden foods to my cat. Such dangerous chemicals are there in meat. And you know, there was this issue of mad cow disease in Europe, in UK, where uh, these cows were developing holes in their brains, and whoever ate the meat of these diseased cows would also develop the same disease. And they found out that this disease was caused because they were feeding powdered bones of dead slaughtered cows. So that means they were slaughtering the cows, and they were taking the bones of these cows, powdering them, and then feeding it back to the cattle, to the livestock. So such horrible, horrible deeds. See, so as a result of that, this disease, and lakhs of cows were killed. Actually, it should not be called as mad cow. It should be mad man, because you know men are mad. They made these cows mad. And really, I mean, when you eat meat, we really do not know whether that animal which was killed was having some disease. We never can know. How can you tell? It's quite risky, actually. It's quite a gamble. Now, people argue that, we have to eat meat because it gives us protein and all that. But you know, another reason here, which has been given here, is that if you have 1 acre of land, which you use it for developing meat, producing meat, and if that same thing you use it for cultivating vegetables, then that will be the productivity. You will get 43 units of meat, but if you use it for vegetables, you will have 269 units. So that means it's more productive. It's more productive use of land. That means you can feed more people. It's a waste of land and space. I mean, we speak about world hunger and all those things. So you see, soya bean, how much can you get of 1,000 acres of land? If you use it for soya bean, rice, corn, wheat, and steer means like non-veg. How much? You see the difference. How much protein can you get out of 1,000 acres of land? This goes to show that it is not efficient use of land. So 65% of the world's grains are set aside every year to feed 53 billion land animals that are killed every year on this planet. Which means that the meat industry is responsible for world starvation. 65% of the world's grains, instead of being fed directly to humans, they're used to feed the animals, 53 billion land animals that are killed every year. This is the old statistics, as I said. This is 9-year-old statistics, so today it is even more. So reducing meat production by just 10% would release enough grain to feed 60 million people. Grazing occupies 26% of the Earth's ice-free terrestrial surface. Feed crop production uses 1/3 of all arable lands. 1/3 of all arable. Arable land means one that can be cultivated. So that much of land is being wasted. Okay, so we have concluded that the meat industry is a major cause of starvation and shortage of food grains and a wastage of space, inefficient utilization of land. Now we are coming to the uh, meat industry being the cause of pollution. Do you know that the meat industry is responsible for no less than 18% of the emission of greenhouse gases generated by human activity, more than all forms of transportation combined. All the transportation combined does not equal the pollution caused by the greenhouse gases generated by human activity. I'm sorry, uh, 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 contributed by the meat industry, transportation of the meat. Okay. Now, why is that so? Because the problem with meat is that once it has been slaughtered, the animal has been slaughtered, right from the slaughterhouse to the till the meat reaches the uh, consumer, it needs to be refrigerated, and that takes a lot of energy, and energy means pollution. Because naturally, transportation, even the vehicles, they need to be refrigerated. Vehicles run on diesel or petrol. And moreover, when you're transporting livestock, you can't pile them up. You can only have certain animals. You cannot stack them. It's not like you're transporting cucumbers or vegetables. You can stack them up. So there's more efficient utilization of space, but you can't do that with animals. It takes a lot of space. So the uh, meat industry is one of the major causes of pollution in the world. Today, we don't have clean air to breathe. India is one of the most, out of 25 of see the irony that India has one of the most vegetarians in the world, but still India is one of the most polluted countries. Out of 25 most polluted cities, around 18, 19 of them are in India. Of course, some are in China and Xinjiang and all other places. So, it's an irony. I mean, we don't have clean air to breathe. All the industrial areas are here close by. When you're sleeping in the night, they're releasing all the pollutants in the air. So the next point is about nutrition. People argue that, previously people believed that you needed 150 grams of protein per day. But recent research has shown that we do not need that much protein. We only need 30 to 45 grams per day. And there is ample in a vegetarian diet. In fact, there is more in vegetarian diet. We will be proving it in milk and all these items. And it's a myth that has been propagated by the nutrition industry that you need protein, protein X, cow, Complan, Boost, Horlicks, and all these things. Prabhupada said this is not right actually. You have to be Sunday hoya Monday, rose khao ande. All these kind of advertisements are there, which are quite weird actually. But you see in nature, like the elephant, it's a vegetarian. See how much power it has? What does it eat? It just eats grass, leaves. And human beings are eating Boost and Complan and Protein X and all those meat and all those things, and still they are having nutritional deficiency. Prabhupada said it is not nutrition, it is your power of digestion which determines whether you will get the nutrition out of the food or not. The food has the nutrition. Question is, you should have the power to digest it. And digestion, a good digestion is dependent on how hard you work and with your physical body and how your mental well-being, all these things determine whether you can digest it. See the camel, see the stamina it has. It's a vegetarian. There are these bodybuilders who have shattered the myth that you have to be a non-vegetarian to build your body, but no. Even vegetarians can be great bodybuilders. Some of the best bodybuilders are vegetarians actually, apparently. So now we are coming to another theme called as compassion, where this great Leonardo da Vinci, he says that truly man is a king of beasts, for his brutality exceeds them. We live by the death of others. We are burial places. I have since an early age abjured the use of meat. The cruelty that goes on in slaughterhouses, people are not aware of it. All people see is these advertisements, tandoori roast chicken. And now these look, the reality is covered, is hidden from the people. So people don't get to see. Therefore, somebody has said, if slaughterhouses had glass doors and windows, then the whole world would be vegetarian. Meat packing industry, they use such words like, what do you call that? Slaughterhouses are also called something now these days. Not these days, it's been there since a long time. They don't call it slaughterhouses anymore. They call it something like what? Abattoir. Yes, that's what they call it. Abattoir. Now, what is an abattoir? You call it a slaughterhouse, okay, it's more understandable. So you see, Manu Samhita says mams, meat is called as mams. And Manu Samhita says that mamsaha bhakshayita mutra etat mamsam yaharmiham etat mamsasya mamsatvam pravadanti manishina. Mamsaha comes from two words. Now I'm telling you the meaning of this verse. It says mamsaha. Mam means me in Sanskrit. Saha means you. So we will exchange positions. So that means if you kill an animal, then you agree to exchange position and be willing to be killed by that animal in the next life. This is the real definition of the word mamsa. The law of karma, basically. And we can see today, the whole pandemic of COVID-19, and since last 2 years we are in complete lockdown. It's because of some virus which has emerged from a wet market in China, slaughterhouse. Okay, and there are theories that it has emerged from a laboratory in China. It leaked out, and whatever the reason is, it is connected with bad karma. Because as the scriptures say that if you eat meat, it'll make your heart hard. You'll become violent by nature. It is against the principle of compassion. Live and let live. Even the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." So naturally, when people become hard-hearted, they try to invent weapons of mass destruction. And we can see that COVID also, whatever, if it has come from the laboratory or it has come from the market, it is a result of violence. So therefore, like if it's COVID, people do not see the connection. So many people are dying today. About 3.7 million people are dead because of COVID. Now this is a recent statistic. Still today, 3.7 million people are dead. Nearly 37 lakh people. So is there a connection? Well, that is the law of karma. That is a connection. What goes around comes around. So we have to learn to appreciate life. People keep cats and dogs as pets, but they kill pigs and chickens. Don't know why. Why are they so partial? Why do they love some and kill the others? That's why now world over this new fad of vegetarianism and veganism is coming up all over the world. People are learning to appreciate animals, all forms of life, and therefore they're having farms where children are brought and they are made to play with animals, because people don't associate with animals, so they've lost the touch. They don't know what they're eating on the table, what's coming to them. They don't know what suffering the animals have gone through in order to become their food. So therefore, these kinds of farms are coming up all over the world where children are being educated. This is one of the things, exercises that children should be brought and made to see and feel compassion and play with them. And even in ISKCON, even in Govardhaniko village, connected to ISKCON Chowpatty, we have animals there. We have cows, calves, donkeys, horses, and many animals where many children come and they love playing with them. So it is a question of developing compassion. So that's how it is, the law of karma. So we will be bound by the reactions of what we do. Can't escape it. I had this video which I wanted to show you, but I think that if I show you this video, I will run short of time at this 10 minutes. I don't know whether I should take the video or not. Well, anyways, I think I will just go ahead. Okay, let's go to the next. Illicit sex. Again, a sensitive issue. I'm sorry if it offends somebody, but it needs to be discussed. Now we have to understand that the Gita is not against sex. Okay, we've already said it, that none of these things are forbidden. Sex is sacred. Krishna says that I am sex which is not opposed to religious principles. Okay, so that means sex itself is divinity actually. But there are certain laws, there are certain rules. Dharma viruddha kamosmi paratarshava. I am sex which is not contrary to religious principles. But we see illicit sex, which means sex without responsibility, without marriage, outside of marriage, and things like that. That is sex for recreation rather than procreation. Okay. So now there is a statistics here. Wait until marriage, WUM. Okay, that's what it is in acronym. So in 1954 to 1963, 11% people believed in waiting until marriage, till they had sex. That means in 1994 to 2003, 3%. So it has reduced. Now, what is going to be the result of it? Now, people who wait until marriage, they have a 22% higher relationship stability, 20% higher satisfaction in actual performance of that act within marriage. They're not bored of it. There's something exciting to look forward. I mean, if you have already done everything, then what is the excitement of? You keep something, for. So 20% higher satisfaction and 12% better communication. And it has been studied that the teenagers who scored higher on the intelligence test consistently reported a much lower level of sexual activity. So continence increases your brain power because you can focus. And that's why brahmacharya in the Vedic times, and in fact in every part of the world, student life means study, that's all. There is no contact with the opposite sex. Because the moment there is contact, then there is distraction. So therefore, up till the age of 20, 18, 19, where person is studying, there is no contact so that he can study. I still remember when I was in school, in the 10th standard, my friend was having an affair with a girl and I still remember his mother coming to me and saying, "Arey, mere bete ko samjhao, pata nahi kya kar raha hai?" And he really fared very badly in his exams because it was a big distraction for him. He was just not focusing on his studies. So naturally, it is a distraction. So they are related. Intelligence is inversely proportional to the attraction we have for this thing. Okay. And we see that great thinkers in the past actually observed continence, like Aristotle, Pythagoras, Plato, Kant, Leibniz, Spinoza, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Isaac Newton, Beethoven. So all these great thinkers, composers, artists believed that continence helps in creativity and development of one's full potential of one's aptitude. And illicit sex is also the cause of abortions. Now, I'm just taking one example. Research conducted till 2012, abortions in India. That many number of abortions. Unbelievable. What a crime. In India, it's going on. Land of Dharma. So, unfortunate. So, fathers abandon the woman after the child is born. The child is left as an orphan in orphanages. So, the children are raised without education, love, care, moral support. They end up as criminals, drug addicts, alcoholics, and they also eventually may become terrorists. I remember when I was coming from Khargar to the temple at around 9 o'clock in the night, one boy, young boy, he grabbed my phone out of my hand and jumped out of the train. Young boy, might be 18, 19 years old. But somehow, because I had this running, I was a runner. I used to run track in college, in school. I was very quick. And that day I was prepared. I'd never carry any luggages with me when I'm traveling by train. So I had nothing with me. because I always keep myself prepared in cases of eventualities like this. Things happen, I'm from Bombay, so I was born and raised in Bombay, so I'm quite aware of all these things. So when this guy grabbed the phone from my hand, I also ran behind him. I also jumped off the running train. I fell on the tracks and somehow I ran and chased him. And one police guy, he also seeing me chasing this robber, he also jumped out and we both nabbed him. Took him to the police station, lodged a complaint. At 12:30, I was in the police station. And finally, I had to submit my phone. I got my phone back and I had to submit the phone, and all those legal things were taking place. I had to submit my phone as a proof. Eventually, after 2 or 3 days, when I went to claim my phone back, I was just talking to the police inspectors, and they were saying, "Kya, yes, all these people live in the same area, Govandi, that side. I'm not against good people who live in Govandi, but there's a place, a slum area where all these boys, they have this one profession. They are chursies, they take drugs, and in order to support their extravagant expenses for the drug, they go and pickpocket, they steal phones and all those things. Because the children have just produced, the parents have just produced the children, but they have not taken the effort to give them proper training and moral values. Many of them are orphans and they're raised just like that. So you see, raising a child is a great responsibility, but illicit sex undermines this principle. 53% of the teen mothers, 63% are fatherless. I cannot see this. Fatherless homes account for 53% of the teen mothers, 63% of the youth suicides, 71% of high school dropouts, 85% of youths in prison, and 90% of homeless or runaway children. 53% of teen mothers. Teens should not be mothers, okay? That's the idea, basically. So why? Because they have no one to support them. They have no parents to tell them what right from wrong, and therefore they end up as mothers themselves. So 53% of the teen mothers, they have no parents, orphans. It's all the result of this kind of thing. Now we are already seeing, COVID and all these kind of dangerous transmitted diseases, contagious diseases. But illicit sex is also the cause of major diseases. Just for an example, because all these statistics are available in America, they are pretty, their research is pretty sound, and they are not afraid of releasing it online. So therefore, we have all these things. I'm sure all these diseases are there in India also, but I'm just using it as an example, that, just to show how many people are suffering from a disease called as sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, I mean, there are all these warts, gonorrhea, trichomoniasis, and hepatitis B, syphilis, HIV. That many number of people. So to sum it, basically, worldwide, 17% of all adolescents are suffering from some kind of disease, sexually transmitted, that is, and 20% of women. This is astonishing. You never know that somebody is carrying it, And so that many number of people are affected in the US. As I said, the cases may be more in India, because we don't get statistics in India. So therefore, I'm just using it as an example. Places where these principles are not followed. India is imitating the West. So naturally, we are on that same path. So it makes sense to look into these statistics, yes. So it has been observed that 1 in 5 choose to wait until marriage in highly religious groups. That means people who are associated with some religion, they tend to follow this principle. So that way. And of course, the scriptures say that one great disadvantage of not following this principle is that it precipitates a tenacious identification with the body. The soul starts misidentifying with the body. I mean, are we this body? Are we this machine? No. And the scriptures give us rules so that the soul realizes what its true identity is. So we have to try to minimize and regulate, if possible, regulate all these bodily functions so that we come to this realization that we are beyond this mechanical contraption called as body. Yes, so Hare Krishna. So it's already 8 o'clock, and I'll just touch upon this intoxication for 2 minutes. And is that okay, Vrindavan Krishna Prabhu? It's already 8
Yes, yes,
o'clock.
sure, sure.
Just 2 minutes, and I'll wind up. Now, drugs. The world illegal drug industry generated that many, $321.6 billion. This is old statistics, please note. Today it's even more. That's how big this industry is. Huge, huge industry. People are into all kinds of addictions. There are an estimated 8 million known alcoholics in America. The number of alcoholics is increasing by 450,000 each year. 75% of all crimes and 60% of all divorces have drinking in their backgrounds. Husbands will go and drink, and then they will come back drunk, and then they will abuse their wives, they will beat them up, and domestic violence, they beat the children. Very common. 50% of all traffic deaths are caused by drivers who had been drinking. I still remember when I was preaching in CBD, Belapur, Navi Mumbai, one lady lost her son because he was driving while he was drunk. I still remember. She was very much affected. Her young son, 24, 25-year-old boy. 20,000 persons die and 400,000 are injured annually in accidents caused by drinking drivers. That many number of people are dying because of accidents. And how children look at their parents when they are drunk and they come to abuse the children. This is a small documentary, smaller, how they look at their parents. We may not realize it, but that is the fact. This is how they actually see us if we are drunk.
सीबीडीच्या पाम बीचवर झालेल्या अपघाताचं सीसीटीव्ही फुटेज माझ्याच्या हाती लागलंय. सीबीडी इथे पाम बीच रोडवर रविवारी रात्री 2 वाजता एक भीषण अपघात झाला होता. ट्रेलर आणि फोर्ड कार मध्ये झालेल्या अपघातात 3 लोकांचा जागीच मृत्यू झाला होता. फोर्ड कार मधून 5 तरुण वाशीहून पुण्याकडे निघाले होते आणि त्याच वेळेला पाम बीच मार्गावर किल्ला गावठाण सिग्नल जवळ रस्ता ओलांडणाऱ्या ट्रेलरच्या खालती कार गेली. कारचा वेग एवढा जबरदस्त होता की गाडी कंट्रोल झाली नाही आणि सरळ ट्रेलरच्या खालून पलीकडे निघाली. किल्ले गावठाण सिग्नलवर पालिकेने बसवलेल्या सीसीटीव्ही मध्ये या अपघाताची दृश्य कैद झाले.
Hare Krishna. So you see all these things are happening. Because people are drunk and they are driving. Somehow he escaped, fortunately. Even pilots are known to take drugs. This is a case of pilot who was taking drugs and he was flying the plane and they met with an accident. So these are the. This happened in 1981. There was a crash on the ship. You see. So medical tests showed that 6 out of 4 Navy men killed in the accident had been users of marijuana drugs. And then tea and coffee and all these things are there. There's not much time for it. I would like to stop here. I don't want to be long-winded. Hare Krishna. Anyway, thank you so much for being patient. I'm not sure if you all are still there. But Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. In fact, it was a really, really detailed, very instructive session. Very heavy session also. It really brought home the impact of some of these things. We have a couple of questions. Do we have a little time out to cover?
Yeah, I have time. It's up to you whether you all.
Sure. So one question was about onion and garlic. Like we talked about meat, but we also prohibit onion and garlic. So, like, could we talk a little about that as well?
Onion and garlic, yeah. So onion and garlic are considered aphrodisiacs. It is also accepted by scientists. It agitates the senses. You can look it up. What is the meaning of aphrodisiacs? So when we are trying to control our senses, it's not very good. Not a very good thing to ingest, because yoga institutes control of senses. Controlling senses is the primary activity of a yogi. So certain foods are not recommended. It's not a sin to eat onion and garlic, but it is not healthy for a yogi. Hare Krishna. Of course, we generally do not speak about don't, and we generally speak about do's. So it's very difficult to tell people don't eat this, don't eat that. We have to give people a higher alternative. When people learn how to cook without onion and garlic, then naturally they will give it up. Now they don't know better. Onion and garlics were created by these, Arabian people who came to India. And especially for meat, because meat has no intrinsic flavor. So therefore you need to flavor with onion. You see, once you put onion and garlic, it just hijacks all other flavors of all spices. It's so powerful, explodes in your mouth. Recently I went to my auntie's house, and she said, would you like to have kada? It's very good for COVID. So I said, okay, let me try. So she gave me a little kada. So she had accidentally put garlic inside. A little bit, not a lot. And I just had it one sip. And my whole system was overwhelmed. I just couldn't get that smell out of my mouth. I said, what is this? Does it have garlic? And then she said, yes, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I put garlic inside. So you see, this garlic and onions have such pungent flavors. So what was the use of these? It was basically to flavor meat, because meat, and they don't have, and in fact they have the smell, fish and all, they have a very strong smell. So in order to camouflage that smell, these kind of strong alternatives are used. But for vegetarian diet, you don't need these things. You put jeera, hing, and haldi and all. So wonderful, delicious food. In our temple, chapati is known for such amazing prasad. Once you have that, you will forget about onion and garlic. Why do you need it? So anything else? About chocolate.
Yeah, there's one question about chocolate as well.
Chocolate, okay. So some, like There's divided opinion about chocolates. Chocolates, there are examples of Srila Prabhupada saying that chocolate should not be consumed, and there are certain examples, certain disciples say that no, Prabhupada said chocolates are okay. Uh, but yeah, and Radhanath Swami Maharaj said, I will not eat chocolates because I want to avoid controversies. When Maharaj was asked that, why don't you eat chocolate? Because Prabhupada, some of the disciples do eat. So Maharaj said, yes, but I want to stay away from it because I don't want controversies. So yeah, chocolate is also a bean, and it is a kind of addiction. People are addicted to chocolates. Well, so there are certain disciples who do eat it. When I was in London. They brought in the ashram. They brought a big bucket of chocolate, chocolate mousse, huge condensed chocolate mousse. So they eat. So I don't want to be so much cut to cut left right. Whatever. I mean, if I say yes, people will say, "Arey, Prabhuji said chocolate khana chahiye," and then that will be a controversy. If I say no, people will say, "Arey, this person is a hardliner." So, well, I just would like to leave it at that. Yeah. So, anything else?
Okay, there's one question about compassion. We talked about compassion in the context of animals, right? So someone is saying, how do we differentiate between being compassionate and getting overly attached to some animal, which can harm us, basically?
Compassion means don't kill them. Live and let live. It doesn't mean that you bring a dog at home and keep a pet or a cat. That's not necessary. You keep them all out. If you want to keep a pet, keep a cow. And that also outside the house, not inside the house. And that's not a problem. So you raise a cow. Vedic times, that's what, Krishna had a pet. People today have dogs, cats. That time Krishna had cows. Wasn't that a pet? So one can keep cows. Wonderful pets. Yes, I would recommend. Why not have a cow as a pet? Yeah, wonderful. We have a lot of pets. When I go to Govardhan Eco Village, or even Vrindavan, I spend a lot of time in the Goshala. I love the cows. It's natural to connect with the animals, you see. It's so natural. We can't be hard-hearted. Just being with the cow is so de-stressing. Just embrace the cow, and they also can sense it. Absolutely. We have to spend time with the animals also. We can't. I still remember sometimes people can be so hardline, I remember I was in Ramkeli. There was a yatra in Ramkeli. And I was walking like this. And everyone was walking towards the temple. So from behind, one goat came, one small tiny baby goat. It came running and crossed me, and some Matajis were running behind it. Devotees only, some devotee Mataji. They were running, chasing that goat. It was very cute. So I also just picked it up. I stopped the goat. I thought maybe I'll help them out. So I stopped the goat and I picked it up. The moment I picked it up, some devotees saying, "Arey Jada Bharat." So sometimes devotees can go, to that extreme, Jada Bharat, just because. So half-hatched philosophy, one needs to be mature also in spiritual life in order to see what is compassion, what is passion. Yeah, so I feel that animals are very important. We will become impersonal otherwise. Just we must we should connect with the animals. Should. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Thank you, bro. There's one more question. We said that because of alcohol or because of meat eating, we have children who get abused, or within marriages, partners getting abused, right? So
Yeah,
someone is asking that, okay, if we start following restrictions, but this kind of like these kind of incidents happening to us may have some kind of like psychological consequences. So is it that if we start following restrictions and start living a regulated life, do we not like do these consequences not happen to us? Or
it will be better off. It will be better. I mean, if you are not following, it will be even worse. You know, like somebody was saying that a child was watching Ramayana, and then because he got inspired by Ramayana, now he's taking a bow and arrow, and he's now shooting people and hurting others. So therefore, he should stop Ramayana. The child should stop watching Ramayana. So then Maharaj said that if we stop watching Ramayana, then he'll watch Hollywood and Bollywood, and then he will take guns and he will shoot people. So a person may have those tendencies. That does not mean that you know. I mean, because he is now on the spiritual path, it is better off. So therefore, we must follow it. It is all meant to aid our development and progress. We should. It's all about a good balance. You see, it's all about balance. It's one shouldn't go to that extreme of becoming like ritualistic. Like the Brahmins in Krishna Lila, where rule, rule, rule. We only see the rule. By following rules, you do not get Krishna prema. And at the same time, we don't have to become Sahajiyas. So whoever strikes the right balance, he can be a proper human. We don't want to get into that trap of becoming bigots, religious bigots, like criticizing hardliner bigots. That's bigotry, where you judge others. And spirituality is for yourself, not for others. When it comes to others, you be lenient. When it comes to yourself, you be strict. Apply the rules strictly to yourself, but with others, we can never know what is going on in a person's mind. So do not jump to conclusions. If something does not fit into our paradigm, we immediately end up criticizing. That also we should. So therefore, we have to follow in a balanced way. And especially here in Chopati, I see that Maharaj has a very balanced approach. See, that's why one of the advantages is to see how Maharaj conducts himself in situations. Radhanath Swami especially. It's very wonderful. I still remember once one of his disciples, without mentioning his name, I was very new in Chopati, and he was speaking about a very wealthy industrialist in Bombay, and he was saying that he's feeding so many children and doing so much of social work. And then immediately I retorted because of my bigoted personality which I had at that time. I said, "Oh, but that is all social service. It's not Krishna consciousness." And he immediately corrected me. He says, "No, if somebody is doing good, even though it's not Krishna consciousness, the fact that he's helping others, if he's giving charity, it may not be Krishna consciousness, but you should have a positive approach. First, you appreciate, no, that's nice. But there is something higher. Giving for Krishna, that kind of someone. We immediately undermine people's uh, activities. That is not right. You should have a positive. If you have something positive to present and motivate others to come on that level, then that is nice. But to criticize somebody, na buddhi bhedam janet ajnanam karma sangam. Krishna also says that in the Gita. Do not disturb people's mind by criticizing her. Na buddhi bhedam janet ajnanam. If people are ignorant, do not disturb their mind by saying, don't do this, don't do that. Take a positive approach. If you have something positive to say to motivate him, then that's fine. But otherwise, then you mind your own business. That is the approach. Yes, Hare Krishna.
yes, true. Thank you. So we can end here. Thank you so much, Ru, again. As I said, just seeing all of the statistics and everything that you were talking about, like we follow these principles normally, but just like many times we don't really think about socially what are the huge consequences that are happening, because as a society we are not following these things, which were so natural, or which have been given so clearly, as you said, in the scriptures. So thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you all of
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.